you're creating a discovery guide for a project. Again, this is going to be that first or second conversation you have with the client. I want you to go as in-depth as you can with your discovery guide. So you'll notice I clicked that button and then we have this pop-up here saying we created one page. You'll notice now it's showing up right down here. So if we click on open right here, and I'll open this in a full page. You'll notice sometimes it opens it in the middle or on the side. I like to switch to this full page view. And here we can go in and actually build it out. You notice it's already tied to the project. It's already labeled as a discovery guide. So here we would name this production office website discovery guide. That helps keep things really organized. And we can tag it with the client if we know who we're working with already. And then we have this handy dandy guide giving us kind of a quick overview of what this is. This is the precursor to the creative brief. This gives you all the information you're going to need when you fill out the creative brief. A discovery guide is an internal document that you fill out with the team, but also with the client. These are the questions you're asking the client right as you're getting started. So going through this, you're going to fill out, first off, the background. You want to know why this project, why now? What inspired the project, problems and opportunities that you're addressing, what problem are you trying to solve, and what is the one thing that is highest priority that's going to help us achieve that solution that we're trying to create. So fill out each of these points, and then this is really helpful as you're going through the next part. As you're talking about scope and deliverables, the scope is focused on the nature and the purpose of the work. This is kind of the bird's eye view look at what are we actually doing, what are we trying to create. I like to think of it as if you're going to make dinner, you know that the deliverable is going to be the lasagna. So what are we creating? We're creating a lasagna. We need it done by 6 p.m. We want it in a glass pan, baked in the oven, and that's about it. The scope, again, that's the deliverable. The scope is that high level. What actually needs to happen? Well, we need to go to the grocery store and we need to double check that we have all the ingredients. We need to preheat the oven. We need to find a recipe online. We need to make sure that we have the table set in time. That's all part of the scope. It's that take a step back and look at all the different elements that need to be considered in order to come in here. Again, what do you need from us? Again, we need the grocery list. We need to go to the store. We need to actually assemble everything. We need to have defined processes that we know how to follow. We need to understand, again, if we're making a campaign for something brand new, that's very different than building off of something that already exists. If we're trying to create something that's consistent and repeatable and we're going to do maybe one video per month for 6 months, that's different than doing a one-time video. The scope feels different. The way that we approach it is different. How do we define success? Again, that helps with this. Okay, we have the deliverable. What's the actual success? How are we measuring the results of that? Going back to lasagna, is it my kids really liked the lasagna? Or I was able to take a pretty picture and post it on Instagram and I got 500 likes. How are we defining success? And then what constraints should we be aware of? Is there a time constraint? Is there a budget constraint? Are there things that we can and can't do based on the brand guidelines and the business guidelines and technical things that we can't do or that they can't do? We want to identify all of those early on. So that's the scope and that's the deliverables. If we aren't sure exactly what it is right now, let's get as specific as we can at this point. And then as we flesh out the rest of this and understand their audience, we can take a step back and better understand what we're looking at in terms of deliverables at that point. Target audience, this is going to be critical. So first off, who is this for? The goal at this point is not to identify the perfect target audience, but to get a really good idea of who they think their audience is. Some people have a great idea and some people really don't have a very clear idea of their audience. So again, questions like, who's actually going to see this? Tell me some of the demographic information and especially that psychographic information about them. What do they care about? What challenges do they face? What keeps them up at night? What are they excited about? Help me see who this kind of person is. And then, are there specific things we know about them that should influence the messaging? Those are the things we want to identify here. This portion positioning, this shows how well um, the business or the client understands where they fit in the market, in the eyes of their audience. Where do they fit? So we're asking questions like, what other brands does the audience interact with? Um, like, are they more of an Apple person or an Android person? Are they more of a Walmart person or a Trader Joe's person? Help me understand, um, again, where do they go? How do they spend their time? How do they spend their money? What types of brands do they trust and respect? Not necessarily, we're not looking at direct competitors. We also want to identify major competitors, but this question is getting at, what kind of brands do they trust and respect? Here, these questions, we're looking for examples of designs or videos or brands that they like. They being the client here. This helps us get in their head before we start doing mood boards and style guides. This helps us get in their head and see these are the types of things that they like. These are the types of things that they don't like. If we're building a website for them, okay, what are three websites that you do like? And why do you like them? What do you like about them? What are three websites that you don't like? Why or why not? Help me understand. So that's going to help us understand where they fit and how they see themselves in relation to the other brands and competitors that they're working against. Communication strategy, we're identifying their behaviors and their beliefs. What is their current behavior? Again, what's the status quo? And what are they doing right now that shows that that's the status quo? What do we want them to change? Again, we're getting back into the minds of this audience. Asking these questions is going to help them think more deeply about their audience and reveal more about their priorities as a client. And it helps us see how well they actually know that audience. What do you hope they'll do instead? Probably use your product or your service. How do they perceive it right now? What's holding them back from engaging? What do they currently think or feel? And what do we want them to believe or feel? Dive into these questions with them and see what you can find about the audience. After you've gathered all of this, these should be pretty clear. These should come through pretty clearly then. Why should they trust or believe in this? If we've done our homework here, we should be able to find a pretty clear answer here. This is an opportunity too, if they have examples, if they know their audience well and they have some anecdotes of this person said this, or we've seen these numbers, if they have that kind of supporting evidence, that's going to be super helpful. Character and tone, again, if this project were a person, how would you describe them? We're not talking about the client, we're not talking about the audience, we're talking about the project. So if we're talking about a website, how would we describe the website as a person? What kind of voice or style would they use that connects to this audience? What is the most important thing we need to say? If there's only one thing that they remember about us, what should it be? If we can hone in on this, then this is critical and very directional for the scope and the deliverables. This helps us better refine those deliverables at that point. Here, now this is a little bit more of a formality at this point, but we want to make sure that we know who all the decision makers are in this process. The client may be the main point of contact, but there may be additional people that need to be involved. Maybe it's their boss's boss, maybe it's another consultant. We want to factor in all those different people and make sure we know who they're talking to, because that, again, that influences how we perceive the scope and how we present our work.